Welcome to Frost Astrophotography. In this video, we're going to look at the new process BlurXTerminator for PixInsight and how does it compare to deconvolution. In this first video, I'm going to give a very short introduction to deconvolution, and then we're going to look at the process BlurXTerminator in PixInsight. I'm also going to show you 3 examples of my own images, all in a linear state very early in the processing workflow, and I'm going to compare the normal image to the deconvoluted image to the image with BlurXTerminator. First of all, what is deconvolution? Well, I'm certainly not an expert on this matter, so I would suggest looking up a good video about this or Googling deconvolution, reading on Wikipedia here, like I did. So in our application here, if scrolling down, looking at optics and other imaging, we read that in optics and imaging, the term deconvolution is specifically used to refer to the process of reversing the optical distortion that takes place in an optical microscope, electron microscope, telescope, or other imaging instrument, thus creating clearer images. It is usually done in the digital domain by a software algorithm as part of a suite of microscope image processing techniques. Deconvolution also sharpens images that suffer from fast motion or jiggles during capturing. Early Hubble Space Telescope images were distorted by a flawed mirror and were sharpened by deconvolution. So, moving on to BlurXTerminator, it is developed by Russell Croman Astrophotography, so rc-astro.com. You can read a bit about the process here, and you will see that BlurXTerminator can apply different amounts of deconvolution to the stellar and non-stellar features of an image. It is AI-based, and it is supposed to only manipulate or work with information and data that already exist in the image and not inventing any details that does not exist in this image. It does require PixInsight 1.8.8-9 or later. You can try it. There's a free trial. You register and you simply point to the repository and then update PixInsight, and you can test it for free for 30 days. So to install it, moving on to PixInsight, when you get the confirmation email from Russell, then you go over to Resources, Updates, Manage Repositories. You enter the link to the repository and you click OK. Then you go into Resources, Updates again and you click Check for Updates. PixInsight will then download the process, and after you have restarted PixInsight, you will find it under Processes and Deconvolution and BlurXTerminator. Over here, you click on the wrench icon and enter your trial license key that you get in your email, and then you click on the Select AI button and then select the AI file that is present in the library. Before moving on to the actual images, I just want to compare a bit about the workflow when using BlurXTerminator in comparison to the traditional deconvolution here that you also find under Process, Deconvolution, and Deconvolution. The normal workflow with this process, like you can see in my videos, is that you first of all need to create PSF files for your images. Now this can be done manually, semi-automatic, or fully automatic using the Easy Processing Suite and Easy Decon. So in this little tool, you can click on, you can select an image, you can click on Deconvolution here, and you can click on Create PSF. Now this will have to be done for all of your images, so if you have a narrowband and is planning on doing SHO, you have to do 3 of those. So when that is completed, you also need a star mask. You can do that the easy way using the star mask process. I find that this is not very good, so I normally use StarNet 2 to make my star masks. But then you also need to convert them to a nonlinear state for best results, even though you can click linear data here. That also needs to be done for all 3 images and takes quite a while. And after that is completed, you select your PSF file, you click on the deringing and local support here, you select your star mask, and then you can begin experimenting with all of these settings and features and hopefully come up with some good result. So in comparison, the BlurXTerminator is very simple and straightforward. You adjust star sharpening and star halo setting, and you also adjust one simple setting here for sharpening of the non-stellar adjustments, and that is nebulosity, for example. There are some options down here that you can correct stars only, but not non-stellar objects. And you can also choose to correct the non-stellar objects first and then the stellar objects, but I haven't actually tried any of these. You can of course make previews, you can adjust these. There's also a real-time preview feature that you can use, but I find that it is better to make previews using the PixInsight preview feature and then simply execute the BlurXTerminator on the preview window. I've actually found that the standard default settings works very well, and the images that I'm going to show you today are all done with the default settings in BlurXTerminator. Moving on to some examples. So this is going to be a first look at this process, and it's not going to be a full processing video. I'm just going to take 3 different images here. They are all in a linear state. I've only done a dynamic background extraction and a linear fit on these 3 frames. Then I have run through the deconvolution in PixInsight, and I've run through the BlurXTerminator, and I'm going to show you so you can compare between all 3. Starting with the Horsehead Nebula, Barnard 33. This is the original, and this is the deconvoluted image. And that is deconvolution in PixInsight. As you can see here, there's not that big of a difference. The stars are a bit smaller here, but there's not much sharpening going on, I would say. Just a little bit on the details here. So we're going to open up the BlurXTerminator file and compare that to the original. So this is the original and this is the BlurXTerminator. And if we zoom out some bit, you can see that there is a big difference between the stars here and the details on the non-stellar objects. I can do it before and after. I'm just going to click through the image identifier changes that I made. So this is before and this is after. You can see the difference in star size. Before, after. You can see the difference in sharpening here. Before and after. So I'm quite impressed with that result, I would say. Moving on to Rosette Nebula. This is the original. I'm going to zoom in on this area here. And this is the deconvoluted image in PixInsight. You can see that there's a bit of a difference on the stars. They appear to be a bit smaller. We appear to have gained just a little bit of sharpness on the edges here. I'm going to open up the BlurXTerminator version. And as you can see, there's a big difference here on the details and sharpening here. So I'm gonna click, I'm going to undo this as well. So this is before. You can see the stars here are a bit blurry. The details here are very blurry. I will redo after, before, and after. Before on the details, very blurry, and after they are very sharp, I would say. And the final example, we have a Caldwell 33 here. So we're going to compare. This is the original and this is the deconvoluted in PixInsight. We have gained just a little bit. It's very hard to see the difference here, I would say, but maybe a bit smaller stars, maybe a bit more details in the image. I'm gonna open up the BlurXTerminator. And we see that we have gained some sharpness here on the details, and we'll also reduce the stars significantly. So I'm going to do a before and after here as well. Going to undo the BlurXTerminator. Oh, we see that you gained a lot of size in the stars. So before and after, before and after. Look at the details here. Before, it's a bit blurry, and after you gained a lot of sharpness. So this tool is normally supposed to be used in the linear phase as early as possible in the workflow. So heads up, this is an SHO finished processed image by me with HA stars that is very reduced. And the test is just for fun to see what we can get for the details in the nebulosity. So I'm opening up the BlurXTerminator. So I'm simply going to take the default settings here, and I'm going to apply it to the image and let this run through, and then we will check out the results. The process has finished. This is the before BlurXTerminator and after. Before and after. You can see that we get some reduction in the stars here. You can zoom in on the details here and look at before. Quite blurry here, and after. We get some very sharp results. Might be too sharp, but then again, I've already sharpened this image with both deconvolution and multiscale linear transformation and unsharp masks. So I've used 3 different processes already. Once again, before and after. Before and after. This was just a short introduction, and I will have an opportunity to come back to BlurXTerminator later on, as I will process my first image from start to finish using BlurXTerminator, and that will be in my next video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already doing so. If you want to support me and the production of these videos, there is an option available in the video description. Until the next video, I wish you have clear skies.